are you doing like a SOS, like help me kind of like signal here with your muting and unmuting?
No, it's doing it, and I don't know why.
Oh, weird. Because I was like, is she trying to send me a secret message? Are like spies at her house trying to capture her? Okay. So, and you need to know a philosopher tries to understand the world. Okay, let's move on. So, Socrates, not Socrates or anything like that. This is not Bill and Ted. Socrates. All right. Now, Socrates, he loved to ask questions. You know, I'm going through this book series that is absolutely hilarious. Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians. It's awesome. Basically, the premise of it is that librarians control the world and they're trying to keep knowledge from you and trick you. And in that book, though, they talk about Socrates. They say how he invented the why. And people have asked questions long before Socrates, but he made asking questions really, really popular. And he would ask his students question after question after question. The idea was he thought you could learn by going step by step by step to a conclusion. All right. So my question for you, Evelyn, why did you wake up this morning?
Because my alarm went off.
And why did you have your alarm set, Evelyn?
Because today was a school day.
And why do you go to school?
To learn.
And why do you want to learn?
Because it's beneficial.
Why is learning beneficial to you, Evelyn?
It helps your future.
Okay, and what do you want for your future?
A job.
Okay. And why do you want a job?
So that I have a good life.
Okay. So you could say in some ways you got up this morning so that in the future you could have a good life.
Okay.
So, and that's kind of how Socrates would do it. Now imagine if I went through all of that with all of you over and over and over. Thank you, Evelyn, for playing along, by the way. Sorry, darling. All right. So this idea of trying to get to a step-by-step final conclusion by asking questions, that's how Socrates taught. So we would go and ask questions and ask questions. And, you know, a lot of people thought this was really great. Like the idea of, wow, Danny going and thinking for himself is an amazing thing. Finally. I think he said, ow, like it was hurting his brain to think. But here's the thing. Not everybody thought this was good. Some people said Maddox thinking for himself is dangerous. Because what if Maddox starts questioning why I tell him to do things? What if he starts questioning the government's laws? What if he questions the gods? So Socrates said, question everything. And the people in charge of Athens took that literally and said, we don't want people questioning anything. Would our armies still march to war if they asked, why are we doing this? You know, would our armies go and, you know, listen and do the tough stuff? So, so Socrates was given an option. He says, okay, Socrates, you can either go and say everything you taught was a lie, or you can die. And Socrates said, I can't lie to my students. I can't tell them what I told them was wrong. So Socrates chose death. So he was convicted and said that he was corrupting the youth, trying to make Maddox and Ivan and all of you all think for themselves, that he denied the gods, and that he was trying to overthrow the government. So he's sentenced to death, Cortez. And so the way he was sentenced to death was through drinking hemlock. So this famous painting actually goes, and this is Socrates in the chair right there. He is dead. Here's Plato, who's really sad. There's Aristotle, who is always pointing his finger up. That's just how they always show him, like pointing up to the heavens. It's kind of weird. But But yeah, so Socrates, he goes, drinks the hemlock as for his execution because he could not say that what he taught was wrong. Here's a great quote from Socrates: strong minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, weak minds discuss people. I kind of think about that, how, a lot of you guys are still awesome as fifth graders, but guess what? One day you're going to grow up a little bit. And sometimes you kids, when you grow up a little bit, you start gossiping, talking about people more and not being nice. And so what Socrates has to say about that: when you're not nice, talking about people, that you're weak-minded. Another great Socrates quote was if a life unexamined, so meaning a life that you haven't looked at, you haven't thought about what you do, it wasn't worth living. So meaning that you should always be looking at what you do and why you do it. Here's the problem though, kids. Socrates did not write a single thing down. Not a single thing. It was all thankfully written down by his student, Plato. Plato will write everything Socrates said. Now, this does pose a little bit of a problem for us historians here, because we have to be sure, did Socrates really say that, or did Plato say that and said Socrates said it? We like to think typically that Plato is pretty true to his teacher, because we will see some distinct differences between Plato and Socrates with what they say. But we do need to make note that all of our history on Socrates is about Plato, who was his biggest fan. So Socrates dies, and Plato is super upset. I mean, we saw in the picture, he was crying pretty bad. He was, his teacher, his friend, is now gone. So he goes and starts traveling the world after Socrates dies, trying to understand, trying to figure out, trying to reconcile how Athens was able to go and have their greatest teacher killed. I mean, it's pretty bad right there. So he sets up a school and says, I will never let what happened to Socrates happen again. He sets up a school, and this school is going to last for 900 years. I mean, that's a really long time for a school to last. I know. Like, I love Frederick Classical Charter School, but odds are it probably isn't going to last 900 years. I mean, goodness gracious, parts of this building have been falling apart for the first 5 years I was here. But 900 years we have this lot. But one of the things he thought democracy was the worst kind of government ever. So my question for you, do you agree with that statement, that democracy is the worst kind of government ever?
No.
All right, so everyone in my room, if you didn't hear, practically said no. What about you online, folks? Eliza says no. Kirthana says not really. So why do you think Plato would hate democracy? Why would he say democracy is the worst? Kadir, do you remember what kind of government Athens had? Yeah. And do you know who has the power in a democracy? So, yeah, the people of Athens. Yeah, the people. Good. Thank you, sir. So, maybe because it killed Socrates. Yeah. So, here's what Plato is saying. He says, democracy is the worst because the people have power. Did I get that backwards? Do I have Plato right there? Oh, I might have gotten it wrong. There might have been Plato in that picture there before. I apologize. I'll have to double check. I think I always get curious when I look at this, because I think I may have made the wrong picture here. But anyways, Plato says democracy is the worst because the power is to the people and people are dumb. I know, I said it. I'm sorry. Let's face it. You students at Frederick Classical know some things that many of your peers will never learn. When I'm teaching you guys in 6th grade, I talk to you about things about like the Safavid Empire, the Mughal Empire. Most people, if you talk to them on the street, they say the Safa what's? The Mu what's? He's not calling himself dumb, but he says the majority of people are dumb. So Plato argued that the best possible government is to have someone super duper smart, like him, to be king. So he thought an enlightened monarchy is the best way. So if you go and take Eliza and give her all of the power, obviously Eliza will do such a great job because Eliza is so brilliant and smart and hardworking, and she wouldn't be selfish or mean. But part of the thing is, we know that power corrupts. So maybe Eliza is wonderful now, but you give her, a royal crown, and all of a sudden Eliza starts changing. We don't know that. But that was Socrates' argument, that only smart people should be in charge, and democracy, it doesn't have a way of making sure people are smart. So this is what we call our first political science, and he wanted to go and get the world working around him. Any questions on Socrates or Plato thus far? We got one more dude to go. One more. We good inside? I forgot my clicker. I really is driving me crazy. I don't like sitting or standing right here. I need to be moving around. It's in my car. I will get it at lunchtime, I think. All right. Last guy for today, Aristotle. And he is one of Plato's students. So we see we have a relationship. We have Socrates as the first, Plato as the second, Aristotle as the third, and they all taught each other. Now, Aristotle, he was into all this politics stuff, but he really cared more about the natural world. So you know how we have that whole thing like mammal, reptile, amphibian? Guess what? You can thank Aristotle for that. He goes and says, we should kind of group animals together based on their characteristics. I don't know what he would have said about a duck-billed platypus, though. I don't know how he would have classified that one. And he is going to go, just like how we have Socrates talking about the Socratic method, going and asking questions and questions and questions and questions and questions and questions and questions, and then some more questions. Aristotle is going to do something called deductive reasoning. All right? Now, so here is something that Aristotle would say. He would say that Athenians are Greeks. We know this is true. If you go to Athens today, guess what? It's in the middle of Greece. And he said, Socrates is an Athenian. Okay, are we following along? Does this make sense? Therefore, Socrates is Greek. Duh. I actually added the duh part, but it's the idea. So you have deductive reasoning. So for example, Mr. Kenny teaches at Frederick Classical Charter School. Kadir is in Mr. Kenny's class. Therefore, Kadir is at Frederick Classical Charter School. Does that make sense? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Duh. Now, does that make sense? And you could do this for anything, like, Cortez lives in Frederick. Frederick is in Maryland. Therefore, Cortez lives in Maryland. Duh. Perfect? So that's deductive reasoning, which sounds super duper simple to us. And we're like, yeah, obviously. But you remember, these great ideas, these things have to start somewhere. And they started with this dude. All right. Do we have any questions or comments about our lesson? I know the duh is the most critical and important part. If you don't have the duh, it's just there's something like, there's something gone. My brain doesn't work until I have it. All right. So I'm going to stop the recording there. Thank you to Michael for saying, hey, Mr. Kenny, record this.